This is Extra Paycheck Podcast, episode number 163.
You're listening to Extra Paycheck Podcast, where you will learn how to build and grow your own successful online business. Now, here's your host, Alex Soul.
Welcome to yet another episode of the Extra Paycheck Podcast. This is episode number 163, and today's special guest is Victor Ricci, the founder of TrendPie. TrendPie is a platform that allows you to get affordable user acquisition. Great episode ahead of you, so enjoy today's show. Hi, Victor, and welcome to the Extra Paycheck Podcast.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Please tell us a little bit more about yourself and about your business.
Yeah, so my name is Victor Ricci. I'm from a small town called Narragansett, Rhode Island. I'm 23 years old. I went to school at Seton Hall University. I got a degree in marketing, but my second year there, I started TrendPie, which is an influencer marketing company. And we basically specialize on getting apps low-cost installs using social media.
Mm-hmm. That sounds interesting, very techy, very startup-y. But can you elaborate a little bit more on what exactly that is?
Yeah, so we work with a network of hundreds, if not thousands, of different accounts. We primarily focus on Twitter. So what this means is we work with accounts from 100,000 followers all the way up to a couple of million followers. And when a client comes to us, we basically reach out to our network of influencers, parody accounts, or theme pages. Again, any page with over 100,000 followers. And we connect them to post about the app or the product that came to us. So what this means is essentially we're able to get your product, your app, or your brand in front of millions of people for a really affordable price. So instead of having to compete for, the top tier of influencers, we kind of focus on the people below that. So we're not going to use the Kim Kardashians or the Jenners. We're going to use, lesser known people, but still people who have super active audiences or, a page like Top Cars or, Cute Puppies, things like that built up a really fantastic audience, but are kind of overlooked. One of the benefits of this is we can get posts a little bit cheaper and we don't have to pay for the unnecessary ego of, a huge celebrity or a huge influencer. Yeah. And we found that's, helped our campaigns have a better ROI. We've really focused in on the metric of, CPM, those cost per, 1,000 impressions. And we really want to fine tune that as much as possible. So that way when, whoever comes to us, whether it's a one-man shop, a small startup, or a Fortune 500 company, we can really deliver the top tier of results. We can deliver on time, and we can make sure that they're getting the most bang for their buck.
Mm-hmm. That sounds awesome, and thank you for elaborating on that point. And from what I understand, it's not only apps that you help grow. It's pretty much any business.
Yeah, definitely. So, apps are kind of where we got started. Our first client was an app, and from there, our next 20 were apps. However, we started to work with, e-commerce brands to sell products online, which has been super, super successful. We've done, media promotion where we're promoting videos to get views or, promoting magazines to get page views online. And, we've really gotten creative with the different ways we can use this. What I like to tell people is think of us as an amplification network. We're a really cost-effective and quick way to get you, your brand, or your product in front of millions of people.
Mm-hmm. That's really awesome. And I see a lot of businesses that could benefit from that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things, like I said, we like to try and get creative with it. So traditionally, some people might not think this would work for them, but if we can put a certain spin on it, it can really help drive results. And we've had success with a wide range of different companies and brands. And, that's not to say everything's going to work with us. That's definitely not the case. But we really try and, make it work for everyone. So our whole pitch really is, we don't try and make money on our first campaign with you. We want to make money, on our fifth campaign together where we have that lasting relationship that is more beneficial for the both of us. It's good to run one campaign for one client, but it's even better to run 100 campaigns for one client.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. And Victor, did you finish college?
I did. So I was, it was obviously a huge kind of question, any entrepreneur in college kind of faces it. And, I was also an athlete at my school. I ran cross country for my university, which was at the Division I level. So that was also a huge, waste of time, for lack of a better word. I absolutely loved it. So I shouldn't say a waste, but it really diverted my focus. So when I came to the question of whether I stay in school or not, it was super challenging because, I thought business-wise, the best move would be to drop out. But I thought personally, I needed to stay in school to learn, not to get too deep, but, who I was a little bit more and understand myself a little bit more. And, I don't think I was really ready to, put my head down for the rest of my life and work or, whatever it might be. I really want to enjoy the time with my friends and continue running and being competitive in the sport I was in. And it was just a really nurturing environment. And I don't think I'd be the same person I was today if I didn't stay in school. Was that the right move for the business? It may not have been. Maybe I could be more successful or have more revenue or more clients now if I did drop out. But, I definitely think I made the right decision. And, I don't regret staying in school. I think, like I said, it really helped me grow as a person more than I think I would have if I did drop out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm asking you simply because you mentioned that you started TrendPie while in second year of college, right? So I was curious
Correct.
if you, exactly that. I was curious which way did you choose to keep on going with it or, with school or dedicate all your time to the company. And yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. And I think one of the biggest things that are great about school is, well, what you mentioned is the connections, the friends, the environment, the lifestyle of it all. I think that's more important than the actual education that you get for most professions, most degrees. Not all of them, I'm not talking about science here, but many other degrees, I think those relationships are more beneficial than the actual knowledge that you get.
Yeah, definitely. I think, one of the biggest things is kind of the community you build up when you're in school. And, whether it's immediate or not, you definitely meet some people and you don't interact with them for a year or 2 years or, you have a professor, but just even having that network is super valuable. My sophomore year, I was taking a business law class, and this is around the time where I was starting this company. And I basically just went into my professor's, she's a practicing attorney. She only teaches one class once a week, super good in her profession. I basically went to her and asked her how I could set up an LLC because I had absolutely no idea. And that was something where, like, when I was taking the class, I never really would have thought that that would be the outcome. That would be the benefit I got from that class. I did learn general contract information and generally about the law, but the most valuable thing was she helped me set up the LLC and create this business entity that I never would have known how to do, if I hadn't taken that class.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And how old were you back then in your second year of school?
I believe I just turned 20.
Yeah, so
I started doing this when I was 18 and roughly formed the company when I was 19, but officially founded the LLC when I was 20.
Mm-hmm. But so you said you actually kind of started it at 18.
Correct. Well, I started my kind of endeavor into social media, if you will, when I was 18. Mm-hmm. It was my senior year of high school. I basically started creating accounts, parody accounts or theme pages where I was just posting content that I enjoyed. Then the app of Vine came out and I created my Vine channel, which was just Victor Ricci, where I just posted some Vines that I like to make. And then I created the account called Quick Life Hacks. And it was basically just quick videos that were, life hacks, basically things to make your life easier. The first video I posted was myself removing a yolk from an egg using a water bottle. And this video kind of blew up. It got over 350,000 likes and grew my account to over 25,000 followers in, just a couple of days. To speed forward a little bit, that account grew to over 1.4 million followers. And I was doing a bunch of brand deals with companies to promote their product or app on my channel. Again, speed forward a little bit. I didn't really enjoy doing this. I never really wanted to be in front of the camera myself. So I kind of just stopped posting videos one day and thought, how can I use the network I've built and the experiences I've had to continue to do this, but not in the same way. And that's when I roughly came up with the idea for TrendPie and eventually founded TrendPie in April of 2015.
Wow, that is really awesome. Thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think a story as such as this one, it's a really nice example for, people that look at social networks and people using social networks and creating accounts. When people say, yeah, that's a bunch of BS, like what can that possibly lead to? What, like, you're just wasting time. But I mean,
Yeah.
People, they say that, you're just trying to grow your account on an Instagram or whatever other platform, you're just, it's a waste of time. What are you doing with that? And I think your example would be really good at, well, no, not necessarily. And I'm not saying that everyone will succeed and get to the level of where you got. And I'm talking just about that first account, right? That you grew to 1.4 million, because now you're doing something completely different. But even that, it's possible, and it's possible to monetize those accounts.
Definitely. And I think it's important to note that definitely was not my first account. It was the first one that took off. So, I got a little bit lucky with that. I think I entered, the market Vine at the right time with a unique account that no one else was really doing. And that definitely helped. But it comes down to, just being consistent with posting the content. And, it really only takes one of those things to click for the whole thing to work. And that's something I always tell people. I've done a few public speaking events, and people will come up to me and say, hey, check out my YouTube channel. I'm a fitness YouTuber. I really want to make this my life, my career, and I'm super passionate about it. But I don't have any subscribers. And, I put out great content, but I don't have the subscribers. What can I do? And that's a huge, huge question. And if it was easy, everyone would do it.
Yeah.
If it was super, super easy, everyone would have 1 million followers, and it would kind of defeat the point. So one thing I always say to people is be consistent with the content you're putting out. Look for ways you can differentiate yourself. If you're looking at a big YouTuber and just mimicking their videos, I can almost guarantee you're going to do a lesser job than they're doing, because you're kind of the copycat. So try and, be original in your own way, create something that no one else is really doing, and just be consistent with it. And, that's not to say everyone's going to make it, as we've said, but, hopefully, fingers crossed, if you do those things and you stay on it, eventually you'll get that break. And it's really about just capitalizing on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And I'm sure a lot of people will really appreciate this kind of advice. And Victor, let's keep going with that for a second here. So, someone who did find a different approach, they're making the videos or their content more unique. It's, they have a different approach from everyone else in their niche or their industry. They are consistent. They're making the videos. The videos are of high quality. They invested some money in the lights and microphones and cameras. So the actual production value is high, or high enough, let's say, right? Everything looks good from the outside. And this person's channel is growing, of course, slowly but surely. So how long should that person keep working on it and concentrating on that channel until the point where, they should just give up because it's just not taking off? Is there such a point, or should they just never give up if they, let's say someone who's been doing it for a few years and they don't see, hundreds of thousands of subscribers. They have like 3,000 followers, 5,000 followers after 3-4 years. Like what should they do?
Yeah, I've actually seen that before, and I've seen both outcomes. And I think it comes down to the opportunity cost of making the videos. So if it's something you love doing, there's no reason to ever stop doing it. But if it begins to feel like a grind and like you're working and it's not enjoyable, and you've been doing it for 3 years and, you're only at 3,000 subscribers, it might be time for you to kind of hang it up. And that's not to discourage people from trying it, but it's, at the end of the day, we have to kind of check with reality and say, okay, maybe this isn't going to work, or maybe, create a different channel and try something from a different avenue. I've seen people who personally I've known who have had, the average amount of followers, a couple hundred, and they've started posting content, and, they've gone up that slow, kind of hill that is achieving, quote unquote, social media fame. And I've seen it happen. I've seen people just kind of grind it out and just keep posting. And, every time they post, they get 100 followers, or they get 2 followers. And then eventually when they post, they get 10. And then from there, they get 100 and then 1,000. And then, they're kind of starting to get some traction, and they keep on it. And, when you do get that traction, that's when you have to step on the gas. And I think a lot of people make the mistake of kind of easing off. But, all the people, all the top influencers, recognize that. They recognize the importance of stepping on the gas. They recognize the importance of diversifying, cross promotion, promote your YouTube on your Instagram and your Instagram on your Twitter, and make sure you have a presence everywhere, because you're missing markets if you're not. And that's how you can kind of cheat the system a little bit. If you're promoting yourself on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, YouTube, you're going to hit different people on those platforms just because not everybody's on each one of those. So if you can build up almost independent audiences, you can then cross promote yourself. And these people already follow you. They're already interested in you. So these are the prime candidates for people who will follow you on the other social. And the goal is to build up your one primary. If you do this and set out, you're going to have one that you want more than the others, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube, or, Facebook even. Pick out kind of what's your primary, and then have all your secondary socials and use those as almost like a funnel towards your primary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome advice. Thank you for sharing that. And now I'd like to go back to TrendPie. So you started that company, and how did you grow it? How did you get your first clients? Because this is, I think, one of the hardest parts when you're starting a new business. Getting your first clients, getting people to actually trust you and to give you the money without seeing the results first. How did you get it started? How did you get your first clients?
Yeah, I think one of the things that, is super important is credibility. And, why would someone trust you with their money? Kind of like you referenced. And what helped me was my Vine account. I had an established presence of, over 1 million followers, which spoke to my credibility right there. So basically, to get my first client, I emailed an app that I saw on Twitter or Instagram or whatever it was at the time. It was called Drunk Mode. Basically stops you from drunk dialing people when you go out drinking. And I sent them an email. I emailed their CEO. His name is Joshua Anton. And I just said, hey, I came across your app. I'd love to make a video for you on my channel and promote you. And then, he replied saying, yeah, let's do it. I made the video. And then from there, we kept working together. And then after that, I convinced him to let me run a full-scale social media campaign for him. The problem with the first campaign I ran for him, though, was I went over budget by about double and covered that with my own money out of pocket. So it was a $2,000 campaign. I think I spent $4,000 total. And the campaign barely squeaked by as successful, but he was happy and wanted to run another campaign. So I was super excited by this, and also kind of biting my lip at the same time, because I just wasted $2,000 and he wants to do another one. And if I don't repeat the results, it's not going to be as successful.
Yeah.
So I was able to run another one. I think I spent another $1,800, and this process kept going where I kept spending more than I was allocated. And eventually it got to the point where I was like, okay, I need to change something. So we changed up our whole style of advertising, our whole method, and we were finally able to make it successful within the budget. And he was thrilled, as always. He never knew I was overspending. So he, was happy with that, ended up referring our second client in, who then referred our third. And it just kind of trickled down from there. But it was really about the consistency in the beginning. I think people are hesitant to sometimes send that email, but some of the most important relationships of my life have been from cold emails, where I've just emailed people and kind of the best has come of it. So I always encourage people, send the email. Most people are willing to help. Most people are open to it, but every once in a while you'll get kind of the jerk response or the rude response. But I think that's kind of the outlier. I think the most common response you'll get is more of a helping hand and a welcoming arm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. And thank you for sharing that. That's a growth hack in a way, I guess. And, it's good that it worked out for you. But I don't know if I would recommend that to anyone else, offering a service and overspending the budget and overspending it from your own pocket. That's, I like, you obviously knew where you were going and you knew there is a way to improve that. But do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, to be completely honest, I didn't know where I was going, and it was kind of unintentional. Mm-hmm. And I got to the point where it was kind of change something or hang up your hat. It was pretty rough because, like I said, I was spending a large amount of money out of my own pocket, and I was a college student. So spending $10,000 in a week and a half is pretty tough when you're, living on a very limited budget. Again, I don't really recommend people do it this way, but I knew our product was good. I just didn't know how to kind of show that to people, and I didn't know how to materialize that. So I really believed in what we were doing. I just didn't know how to do it properly. So it took me a while to really figure out that process. And I was really betting on myself and betting on the product we were selling. And again, it was a huge gamble. Maybe if I didn't figure it out when I did, I would have run out of money and had to hang up my hat. But, I was betting on the product. I was betting that, we could make it work. And, luckily, knock on wood, we did make it work.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, Victor, so can you give us a little bit more details about the actual service that you provide? So let's say someone, who wants to start, someone who's starting a productivity, some kind of software versus someone who wants to sell, I don't know, microphones, his own brand of microphones. I would imagine that you need a different marketing approach. Well, you do because you're targeting different people. So how do you guys do that? Do you have like really different accounts that you work with, and then you kind of figure out which accounts are, good for this kind of business and which accounts are better for different kind of business? Like, how does that segregation and separation works?
Yeah. So when we first started, we were really into picking out the right accounts. And that was something we spent a lot of time doing. But what we found was, since we focus on Twitter, that Twitter doesn't have a lot of metrics that allow us to pick who we're promoting to. So we were spending tons of time and tons of effort and spending more money to get on accounts we thought were better. And this actually increased our cost per impression, and it increased kind of the overall cost of each campaign. So the way we do it now is we just kind of try and get as many impressions and do kind of a shotgun approach. So before we were trying to, sniper versus shotgun, pick out each account to try and target the right people. Now we just try and make sure we're hitting as many people as possible. So the way I like to break it down is, if we're promoting an account with 1 million followers, yes, they'll skew one way, but, that 1 million people will have a large variety of interests. So instead of overpaying to get a post about a car in a car account, we kind of try and get creative with it. We can post that picture of a car on, an account that is focused around billionaires that post a lot of cars, or we can post it on an account about motorcycles, where these things kind of have overlapping interests, but since it's not directly in line, we don't have to pay a premium. And that's one way we're able to do it. And we really try and make sure, again, we really focus on the CPMs. And we found that once we get that CPM to be as low as possible, the campaign success goes up.
Mm-hmm. That's, that's very interesting. And that's a totally different approach from what I would imagine, to be honest.
Yeah. And like I said, we started out doing it the traditional way, and results were good, but they weren't fantastic. And we wanted to kind of try and change that. And I looked at every way we could possibly change that, from posting times to length of posts to what they're posting to the accounts we're posting on. And this was kind of one of the ways we decided to change it. And, we get you on hundreds of accounts throughout the day. You're hitting, let's say 10 million people in a campaign. Granted, you have that type of budget. And that's going to be 10 million super active users on social media for pennies on the dollar of what you would pay anywhere else. And that's how it's effective, because they're active people and you're paying very little for that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense if you put it that way. And Victor, is Twitter still one of your biggest and your most preferable platforms for your business?
Yeah, so actually we focus on Twitter still to this day. Everyone flooded to Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat even, and it was kind of a gold rush for a little bit. And there's tons of competition on there, tons of companies doing marketing on those platforms. Twitter seems to be a little bit overlooked, but there's still hundreds of millions of daily active people on Twitter. I think it's 138 million DAUs to be exact, something around there, which is a crazy number. If we do a campaign, we don't need 130 million or more than 138 million people to ever see it. We just need, 5 to 20 million people to see it. So it's still a very active audience. It's still quality users. And I think it's a little bit overlooked now. And, with all this stuff that was happening, internally in the company, I think that kind of turned people off to it as well. But Twitter is definitely something we've stood behind since we started. And, it's personally my favorite social media. So I'm a little biased towards it. But, we do see the best result on Twitter. We've run countless campaigns on Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. And we find almost unanimously Twitter produces the best result.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very interesting. And, you mentioned that you're a little bit biased, and I'm also biased, but completely other way. I don't like Twitter, as in I never got it. I never felt that it could be a tool, a marketing tool of any sort, and I just don't know. I just don't get it. I try to follow people on it, and I have like a lot of followers. Many of them are bots, and I just don't know. It just doesn't click for me. And yeah, that's my feeling about Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, like I said, we don't need everyone on it for it to be successful. We just need the right amount of people.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I'm just saying my personal feel of it. I'm not saying that it doesn't work. I'm not saying that it's bad, but it's, as you said, biased. It's just a platform that never clicked for me, so I'm on it, but barely,
Exactly. And I'm kind of the same way with Instagram. I actually deleted my Instagram for about 2 years and just started posting back on Instagram, I don't know, a couple months ago. And it was just one of those, kind of like you just said for Twitter. For me, it was just something that I didn't see value in. I didn't see the value of going in and seeing relatively the same pictures over and over just from different people. So that was the one that really never clicked for me. Like I said, I'm back on it again. I'm not crazy about it, but I use it. I try and use it rather.
Yeah, that's interesting. And there's another thing that I guess a lot of people don't know, and a lot of people that don't really use Instagram for, exclusively for marketing and growing a brand. Instagram has been banning very specific hashtags for a while now. And what it means that if you use a hashtag that Instagram doesn't want to see, there's a high chance that they're going to, well, first of all, they're not going to show your image to anyone. And if you keep doing that, they will block your account temporarily. And if you keep trying, they're going to, they might shut it down forever. And what I found like mind-blowing is the hashtags that are included. Like some of them are, well, let's say one of them is Asia. I'm like, well, that's ridiculous, because if someone is on a vacation in some Asian country, right? And they want to post a picture on the Instagram and they want to do hashtag Asia, all of a sudden you're breaking Instagram's rules. And that's so ridiculous. That's something, and I love Instagram, but I don't get that. Like, I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's crazy. I actually made that mistake. I posted a picture and used a hashtag that I didn't know. I don't remember what it was, but it was one of those kind of on the blacklist. And my post was removed, I guess is the word for it. And I had no idea why. And I didn't know that was a thing. And I kind of discovered, as you're saying, that there are certain hashtags that they just kind of really, really try and filter. And, they're doing it for a good reason. So maybe they're a little too crazy with it, with, a hashtag like hashtag Asia. But, I definitely understand where they're coming from. And it's crazy because social is such a volatile landscape, and it's all so new that there's no precedent for anything. So it's kind of a huge responsibility of these companies to, protect their users and take certain precautions. It's just kind of hard to know where the line gets drawn. And I think that's something that, will come and go with the next couple of years, and hopefully, it doesn't, infringe on us too much. But again, it's kind of up to these companies to try and look out for the best interests of the users in whatever way they see fit. But, sometimes they're going to be on the mark, sometimes they're not going to be. But, it's kind of our acceptance of it is kind of us just still being on the app and using it for what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. All right. So let's get back to TrendPie. And you said that, initially when you worked with that client, you started having quite a few referrals for new clients. How are you getting clients now? I'm sure you're still getting referrals, but are you also doing any kind of marketing for yourself? Are you approaching potential clients? How does that work for you right now?
Yeah, we do some marketing. A lot of our marketing efforts are PR related or public speaking related. We found that does a lot for us. Even some podcasts help really drive, connect us to the right people. And that's kind of what it's about for us, is making sure, we are getting in front of the right people. Like I said, we work with tons of one-man shops all the time, small dev shops too. And we've also worked with, massive corporations. But for us, it's kind of about delivering results regardless of your size. To us, whether we work with a huge client or a small client, it doesn't entirely matter as long as the results are there for them and, it's consistent. So that being said, a lot of our clients are returning and recurring clients, and a lot of those clients refer new clients in. And that's kind of one of the things I like the best about what it says about our business is when one of our clients stays and then, they like us so much that they refer, their friends and trust us to handle that process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really awesome. And I think, just the fact that you're getting referrals and so many of them, it speaks volumes about your business and the quality of your business and, customer satisfaction in the end, because that's what matters, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's one of the biggest things I try and focus on is, even if we do a campaign for you that's not successful, because like I said, every campaign we do is not going to be successful. It's just not, realistic to think that way. But we want to make sure that, we leave you with a good taste in your mouth so that if you do come across someone, you'll still bring us up. And you can be honest. You can say, hey, we ran a campaign with these guys and it didn't really work for us, but I think it might work for you. Your app might be a better fit or whatever it is. And, I really try and, stress that we want to, make sure these relationships are positive. Unfortunately, you're never going to run a business and have everyone talk about you in a positive way. And I accept that. And I know there's, there might be someone who listens to this who, was rubbed the wrong way by us. And as unfortunate as that is, I always like to say, maybe give us a second chance. We'll be happy to try and, right the wrong in whatever way possible. But it's kind of the cost of business, unfortunately. And it's kind of one of the things where I try and just minimize as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And Victor, are you planning on doing anything else anytime soon, or is TrendPie really your only project that you're, super concentrated on and you're only planning to grow that business?
Yeah, I'm definitely super concentrated on TrendPie right now. It's definitely my primary. I do advise for other companies and apps as well as invest in companies and apps primarily. I'm always looking to help, startups or talk to people and see what advice I can offer or connections I can make. But, really, I would say my secondary is advising for some apps on the side and some small startups as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. And it's very interesting to see that, you're working kind of in that industry, and then you're also, as you said, you're investing in some of them. And so it's still, I don't want to say takes away from TrendPie, but I mean, you're still not just doing this one thing and don't touch anything else and don't do anything else in your life. You're still trying to, try different things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's super important. I think it helps me stay focused. If I'm the type of person where if I do the same thing every single day, I'm going to be very miserable. So I enjoy waking up and really having not a schedule that's set in stone. I can make changes. I can go to meetings or I can, go to a last minute event. And I like when someone calls and says, hey, can you meet up? I'd love to talk to you about this new business I'm starting, or hey, I'd like your input on this app, or anything like that. I really enjoy. I think that's one of my favorite things to do is really consult or advise in those type of ways. We've worked with over 150 different apps. So, I really have a general feel of the way social will react to an app. And, I've been wrong before for sure. But, generally, like I said, I do have an idea of what apps do well or the structure of a business and things like that, I think can be valuable to some people. And I love sharing that. And it's like I said, if someone sends me a cold email saying, hey, I came across this article or heard you on this podcast, I'd love 5 minutes of your time to talk or 20 minutes or whatever it is. I'm always happy to jump on that call. And I'm always happy to kind of offer a helping hand in what way I can. And that's something I am pretty passionate about. And it's something that I really enjoy doing.
Mm-hmm. And when you said that you've worked with over 150 apps, do you mean worked with as TrendPie? You took them on as clients, or worked with as consulted for them and gave them advice and helped them out?
That would be with TrendPie. So as TrendPie, we've worked with over 150 different apps. And in whatever way, small or major, I've had my hand in pretty much every single one of those in varying degrees of seriousness.
Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, most of these apps, and once again, I don't know if you could put a number, if you could put a limit, most of the apps that you took on as clients, right? Were they mostly newer apps or established apps?
We worked with a good amount of both, which is kind of a vague answer, but a lot of clients are relatively newer. And I think there's probably a smaller chunk, maybe 20 or 30% that are existing apps that are trying to revitalize or get new users. So one thing with older apps that are super established that have, a couple million installs or daily active users is that, they kind of hit a plateau where they have a bunch of people on it that are using it, but they're not getting an influx of new people anymore. That's kind of, we help apps with that. And then a lot of them are apps that are raising money right now, doing a seed round or Series A that are looking to acquire users at, an affordable rate. So it's both, but I would say probably 70 to 80% are relatively newer apps.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Thanks for answering that. And Victor, as we're approaching the end of this podcast, could you share your biggest advice for, mostly beginner entrepreneurs or someone who just, who already started an online business, but they're not sure which direction they're going, how to grow it, how to build it up? What would be your biggest advice? Like, what is that most important thing that they should pay attention to?
Yeah, I think that's a huge question. I think there are two things. I think first is kind of more personal. I think it's super important to always ask yourself, why'd you start this? If you want to have a free schedule or if you want to make a ton of money or you want to be your own boss, whatever that reason is, ask yourself every once in a while, are you working towards that goal? And if your answer is no, it might be time to kind of make a change. But I think it's important to set a goal like that and keep revisiting it to make sure you're headed in the right direction. Mm-hmm. And I think, biggest piece of business advice is I think it's super important to focus in on the product and the brand. And, whatever it is, if your product is not good, if your brand is not solid behind that, how you strategize and how you execute that strategy isn't going to matter because your product and brand is poor. I think that's something that sometimes people overlook. They build an app and set aside a bunch of money for marketing or, spend a bunch of money building the app and don't save any money for marketing or any money for, the user experience or the branding or the website. And whatever it is, it could be an e-commerce brand. It could be a fashion magazine. I think those are just vital parts of startups today and early businesses. If you don't have a good brand, it's hard for people to trust you. If you don't have a clean, website that's well done and well oiled, or your products, your bracelets are cheap and they break easily, those are all really hard things to get over. If you sell a client a pair of sunglasses and that pair of sunglasses breaks immediately, you pretty much lost that customer forever and everyone they know. So that's one thing that you can't do over. So that's why you have to do it right from the beginning. And that's something I always stress to pretty much everyone is, like I said, the brand and the product are massively important. As much as you strategize and as much as you try and execute that strategy, if your brand is poor and if your product is poor, it won't matter.
Awesome. That's That makes so much sense, and thank you for sharing that. I hope people are listening and paying attention to that.
Me too.
All right, Victor, before you leave, where could people go to maybe get in touch with you or find out more about you, about your company, and maybe sign on as clients?
Definitely. I think the best way to get in touch with me is social media or email. My email is victor@trendpie.com, which is spelled VICTOR @trendpie.com. And as much as I was just hating on it, you can find me on Instagram at VIC. @Vic is my Instagram name. Pretty easy to type in, so that might be the place to go.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Victor, thank you so much for sharing your story, your experiences, and your tips with the listeners.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Extra Paycheck Podcast. As always, head over to extrapodcast.com/163. This is where I'll be putting up show notes page for today's episode. Also head over to extrapodcast.com/YouTube in order to subscribe to Extra Paycheck's YouTube channel, as well as extrapodcast.com/Spotify in order to follow the show on Spotify. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you next Monday.